And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, Darren back with you here at Cross Timbers Farm. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles. We are been working on our equipment shed for a few days, and as you can see behind me, we've got the post in the ground and got our stringer boards up and our rafters on. So the project's moving right along. We've got tin to pick up to put on the roof, but for now everything's going along as planned. We're using our rough cut lumber that we took a lot of our bigger lumber and got the table saw and got a lot of it ripped down into appropriate lengths and sizes for our rafters and our stringers. And our rafters are actually 3x3s, and you know, that would be probably a little bigger than using a 2x4 as far as the actual material of the wood. You know, a 2x4 is not really true 2 inches by 4 inches. It's, you know, 3.5 by 1.5 inches or 1.75 inches, something like that. So, you know, if you add up the actual material in the wood, these are bigger than a 2x4. So we've got our rafters up, and we've got the post in the ground, and we've got overhang. We've designed this with plenty of overhang for when we park the tractor in, the bucket sticks out a little further, whatever, to help keep the rain off of everything. But so far everything's going really well. We are right now in the process of treating our rafters. Even though everything of this is going to be under 10, bear in mind that the post and everything ground contact has been treated. We've done a video not long ago on treating rough cut lumber for ground contact and weather contact, and we've done that. These big huge timbers are in the ground, and they're about a 4x9. They're big posts on the ends, and we've braced them for 3 foot of overhang on the end with appropriate bracing, and it's all slowly coming together. We needed this shed something terrible for our haying equipment, to park our tractor and the hay baler and the hay rake and some other equipment under, to get it out of the weather and get it out of our barn. We need that space for our growing dairy herd. And we brought another dairy goat, doe, onto the farm earlier in the week, and or late last week. So the herd's growing, and we need to get the equipment out of the barn, out of the alleyway of the barn, so we can utilize that space. But we've treated everything on this wood, this rough cut wood, with used motor oil. Anything that has ground contact, and actually we're treating it every bit, even the part that's up right under the tin. And even though it will be out of the weather, the reason we're treating it is for insect repellent. When you take rough cut lumber, raw, untreated lumber, especially pine lumber, in our area during early summer or late spring, the boring bees, or some people call them carpenter bees, they are bad in this area. And if you have untreated wood, rough cut, raw lumber, we call them boring bees, they will attack your building, your lumber, with a vengeance. And it doesn't take but a few seasons, and they have weakened your structure so bad boring into it that you know, you have to start replacing stuff. So we've treated everything with used motor oil, and I've found in the past that petroleum products or oil-based products on wood will pretty well repel carpenter bees or boring bees. We treat our barn about every 3 or 4 years with an oil-based stain. And I've watched the boring bees go all around it and buzz all around our barn, and they start to light on it and they come off, and they start to light and come back off, and they just go on. When they detect that oil-based stain or whatever on your wood, they don't like it and they'll move on. They'll find an easier target. So we're treating everything, even the rafters, and we're going to treat our tin slats, or some people call them furring strips, with oil, with used motor oil. We're treating it all. So even the part way up under on the roof that's going to be right under the tin that should stay very dry, we're still treating it with used motor oil to keep the boring bees at bay. So today I've got most of the rafters stained. I think I like 3 or 4 to be stained in oil or drenched in oil. And we don't put the oil on where it's just running off. We put it on with a paintbrush, you know, so it's not dripping on the ground, and it just soaks into the oil, into the wood. So we're going to get at it. It's a beautiful day. Okay, folks, we're back here at the equipment shed build, and it's a couple days later, actually probably about a week later than the previous clips, where we had the rafters up and we're treating them with used motor oil in the old-time way of preservative. Mainly the rafters and the slats, or some people call them furring strips or tin strips, the ones that go across the rafters that the tin attaches to. We've got all those down and they've been treated. And anything above ground contact up, the main reason we treated those was for insect repellent. I alluded to earlier in the video that carpenter bees, or what we refer to as boring bees, in our area in late spring, early summer, are a real problem if you're building anything with rough sawed lumber, untreated rough cut lumber. The bees will just start boring into it all over, anywhere they can just light on. And you know, within a couple of years, your structure is very much compromised in structural integrity. So we have found that using oil or any type of oil-based stains will repel those carpenter bees or boring bees from your wood to keep it to last. Plus anything down that the snow or rain or whatever would blow into and against, the the old-time way of treating these for weather resistance is done with the used motor oil. So everything's been treated, and as you can see, we have got most of the tin on. We're just about done with this project. We, the last few days, and I didn't film any of the tin, this part of the tin going on, we've had some pretty nasty weather the last few days. It's been really cold. We had a real strong cold front blow in, and it's been cold and very windy and was just hard to manage the tin. I actually had some help one day. My brother came and helped me with the tin to get up, because with just one person, the wind would just jerk it out of your hand. It was dangerous. So, but anyway, we got most of it up, and you can see we've got one piece to go, and then we've got to flash the back side of it and get that done, and get this last piece of tin on. It's going to have to be cut. It's not going to be a full length piece of tin, so I'm getting ready to do that so I can get this piece of tin on, and the roof will be complete except for flashing the back and getting some equipment pulled in here and parked and out of the weather. So we're looking forward to that. So let's get busy. Okay, one thing you'll notice we're doing is when putting down the tin, we're using your standard metal roofing screws with a rubber washer under them, or neoprene washer. I'm not sure which it is. It kind of looks like neoprene, but it could be just rubber. Down to attach the tin to the furring strips and the rafters. And one thing that I'm doing, simply because this is a pretty high wind area right on top of this ridge, We get some pretty gusty winds through here, and to really secure this tin to this roof without the wind trying to rip it off is, in most places where the tin is only attached to the furring strips or the slats, we're using like 1.5 inch standard roofing, metal roofing screws to attach it to the furring strips. But anywhere that the tin lays in line with one of the rafters, we went and bought some super long, you might see these are like 3.5 inches long metal roofing screws. And we're using these really long ones anywhere we can where the tin lines up with a rafter to use these, and we're pre-drilling our holes. Bear in mind one thing: when you use rough cut lumber and you run screws into it, even if it's really good and cured and dried, I recommend drilling a pilot hole. And the reason I say that is lumber that has not been pressure treated, when you run a screw like this through that lumber, if it's pretty thin like our furring strips are, this screw will crack it. And what happens when the lumber cracks, when the screw goes down in it and it cracks, now that screw is basically deemed useless, because now it's not, the threads of that screw's not gripping and holding much of anything. So we pre-drill our holes, and we're using these 3.5 inch long metal roofing screws to go through the furring strip all the way down into the rafter. So these long screws, anywhere our tin lines up with a rafter perfectly, we're going all the length of it down, running these long, extra long roofing screws through the tin all the way through the furring strip and down into the rafter, so it's got a really strong hold for these windy conditions. Boy, that drill bit's dull. Dull. Okay, folks, our shed build is complete. It is done. We got the last piece of tin on today and some flashing put around the corner back here where it joins the other building to keep our rafters waterproofed, and all the tins on, everything's done. We're ready to start parking hay equipment under our new shed. Thanks for coming along with us the last week or two as we've built our new equipment shed. We're looking really forward to using it. It was needful here on the farm. We ran out of space inside the barn, and anytime your farm's growing, which is a good thing, you got to have some infrastructure to go along with it. And I know a lot of folks that'll leave their hay and equipment just parked out on the edge of the hay fields or whatever for the winter, and you do the best you can do. If that's all you can afford to do and the best you can do, then hey, I got no problem with that. But your equipment will last a lot longer, I really believe, if you keep it protected from the elements when it's not in use. Get it under a shed, get it in a garage, get it in a pole barn. Do something. Even, I'm not a big fan of putting a tarp over something outside, unless you have it something over, like your baler, to keep the tarp from laying right on it. Condensation gets under those tarps and can just keep your equipment damp, and I'm not a big fan of that. If you had some way just to put a tarp over the top of it with some stakes or something, where air could flow through it, that'd be perfectly fine, I believe. But I would really rather just leave it parked out in the elements as I would to put a tarp over it and pull a tarp down, and tighten it with some bungee cords down to it. Condensation gets under those tarps and it can't get out, and I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather leave it sitting out in the open as I would to put a tarp down tight to it. But one of these days we might add on to our barn, but for now this is going to be fantastic. This shed is 14 foot deep by 23 foot long, so we can put our tractor and set our bucket off under there when we need to, and we can park our baler under there, and we can park our hay rake under there. The hay rake I may have to take the wheels off of it to get it to fit and not take up so much room, but that's a simple thing with a pull a cotter pin and pull a pin out, and the J-arms will come right off. So when it's time to rake hay again next early summer, literally 15, 20, 30 minutes to get that hay rake back together, and it would be well worth that time for the rest of the year for it to be in here protected out of the weather. So we'll try to get the hay rake under there, and we got a few other things we can store under there. We've already got our drum mower and brush hog and some things, and a pull behind brush hog and the ATV under this existing shed, which this one's tied into. Now we've got room to put some stuff here. Probably in the next couple of weeks I'll have a truck bring me a couple of ton of 3/4 wash stone gravel to put in this, so it doesn't get dusty, or when it rains, rain run under there and get muddy or something like that, because the sun ain't going to be hitting it much anymore. So to keep it dry under there and keep it from getting dusty, and when it rains, the rain running in there and making it muddy. So we got just a few more things to do. I'll build a small rack back in the corner to hang my PTO shafts up on out of the weather and out of the sun. I put it way up next to the roof. I can go up on the concrete pad of the existing shed and reach them real easy. I can just reach right in there and slide them into a rack, and that way they're right up next to the roof where no rain's going to blow in on them or anything like that. They'll stay really dry right there and out of the sun and all that good stuff. So sun can just over time really damage some stuff once, and and getting wet and dry, and the sun just really baking your tractor, the paint and everything, just the UV damage, it'll add up over years. So, you know, we try to keep the best care of our equipment that God's blessed us with, so to last us as long as it will. So in any event, thank you so much for being with us in our shed build. We used old-timey ways to treat our lumber. It's built out of rough cut sawmill lumber. It was cut on a portable bandsaw, and it's heavy duty. We got some really big posts in the ground and some really nice big thick stringers, and we got nice rafters and furring strips and good tin on it. So I think we're set. So, you know, it's you can build something like this a whole lot cheaper than you actually think you can if you think outside the box. Sometimes you just need to forget about the big box stores and the lumber prices and go down to your local family-owned sawmill, or hunt around and find somebody that has a portable mill. Lots of times, even if you don't have no timber to fall on your own property, logs for them to come mill for you, lots of times those folks will have a supply of lumber where they've milled elsewhere and will sell to you. So, you know, that's always an option. And then, you know, if you're going to have ground contact or weather contact, or for insect protection, you know, look the old time ways for some used motor oil. Some people will mix a little diesel fuel in with it, or just straight motor oil is what I used motor oil, and it's done really well, and I think I'm set. So thank you so much for being with us through our shed build, and we've enjoyed our time building it. There's always something going on the farm, and every day's a good day. Thank you for being with us here at Cross Timbers Farm and 8th Day Chronicles. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd really appreciate you subscribing to our channel. We're having a lot of views of folks that's apparently not subscribing, and we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to our channel. It makes us want to get out and do more videos when we see the subscription numbers going up, and it's an encouragement to us. So thank you very much. God bless, and y'all have a good evening.